Glad you could be here tonight. Please turn to Psalm 109. Psalm 109, please, as we continue our study of the Psalms. Last time we studied Psalm 107 and tried to show that several of the Psalms, beginning, I believe, 103, relate to one another. There's similarity among them in that they discuss different works of God and blessings to the people of Israel and their unfaithfulness in response. Psalm 108, we're not going to spend time on tonight because it really consists of parts of two other Psalms that we studied earlier, Psalm 57 and 60, I believe it is. So we'll look at Psalm 109 this evening instead. Move on to Psalm 109. Questions or discussion before we begin? Well, let's go ahead and read the first 20 verses. Psalm 109, we'd like to read verses 1 through 20. Psalm 109, verses 1 through 20, please. Bill, please.
To the chief musician upon a psalm of David, do not keep silent, O God of my praise, for the mouth of the wicked and the mouth of the deceitful have opened up against me. They have spoken against me with a lying tongue. They have also surrounded me with words of hatred and found against me without cause. In return for my love, they are my accusers. I will give myself to prayer, thus they will reward me evil for good and hatred for my love. Set a wicked man over him and let an accuser stand at his right hand. When he is judged, let him be found guilty and let his prayer become sin. Let his days be few and let another take his office. Let his children be fatherless and his wife a widow. Let their children continually be vagabonds and beg. Let them seek their bread also from their desolate places. Let the creditor seize all that he has, and let strangers plunder his labor. Let there be none to extend mercy to him, nor let there be any to favor his fatherless children. Let his prosperity be cut off, and in the generation follow, let their name be blotted out. Let the iniquity of his fathers be remembered before the Lord, and let not the sin of his mother be blotted out. Let them be continually before the Lord, that he may cut off from the memory of them from the earth, because he did not remember to show mercy, but persecuted the poor and needy man, that he might even slay the broken in heart. As he loved cursing, so let it come to him. As he did not delight in blessing, so let it be far from him. As he clothes himself with cursing as with his garment, so let enter his body like water, and like oil into his bones. Let it be to him like the garment which covers him, and for a belt with he girds himself continually. Let this be the Lord's reward to my accusers, and to those who speak evil against my person.
Okay. So as we begin, question number one, what theme did you see in the psalm? What would you say is the theme of the psalm that we're studying tonight, 109? Frank?
See places where there's praise to the Lord and a plea for judgment of those who falsely accuse and seek to harm David.
Okay. So there are those who are doing wrong to innocent people, plea for justice on those who do that. Other comments on the theme? Susie.
David did good, and he did good to these people, but they returned his good with evil.
Okay. All right. Other comments on the theme? Okay, as you can see, I stated that I'm poor and needy, save me according to your mercy. Similar to what the rest of you have stated, that David is speaking of someone who is suffering mistreatment at the hands of evil people, It's a call for justice upon those people, and that those who do right would be blessed by the Lord. Okay? So, if you look at verses 1 through 3, then, how does he describe the problem in verses 1 through 3? We begin the study. How does he describe the problem in verses 1 through 3? Steve.
False accusations, slander, and betrayal from people he once treated kindly.
Okay. False accusations. People speaking in lies against him. Other comments on the first 3 verses? Okay, you notice he says at the end of verse 3, Steve may have mentioned this, that they oppose him without a cause. It's not justified. The things that are being said about him are not deserved. He hasn't done anything to deserve them. So the people with the wrong things they're saying about him are deceitful and lies. Okay? Without a cause. Other comments on the first 3 verses? Rick?
Over in John chapter 15, verses 24 and 25 is referring to Christ. And it says, if I had not done among them the works which no one else did, they would have no sin. But now they have seen and also hated both me and my Father. But this happened that the word might be fulfilled which was written in their law. They hated me without cause.
Okay. Now, one of the things we're going to study as we go along is what application this psalm has to Jesus. We'll see specifically in verse 8, a verse that is definitely applied to Judas for his mistreatment of Jesus and betraying him. So we know there's some application here to Jesus, but is this entirely a prophetic a prophecy of Jesus, or is it something more of David and just has a similar application to Jesus? We'll discuss that as we go along. But as we begin, whoever it is talking about is being mistreated by those who are lying about him and deceitful about him without a cause. Anything else in the first 3 verses? Okay. So question number 2 then. I see. We got a couple more verses. I forgot. I didn't see the verses 4 and 5 yet. How does he respond to this mistreatment? In verse 4. Susie, how did he respond?
He gave himself to prayer.
All right. So he's acting well towards them in love, but they accuse him. So he prays about it. And they've rewarded him evil for good and hatred for his love. Okay? Obviously that would, back to Rick's point, that would certainly apply to the way that Jesus was treated, and specifically about the way Judas treated him. Okay? Now, question number 2, verses 6 through 8. What punishment does he think they should receive? What should be their punishment for what they've done, verses 6 through 8? Steve?
Turn their own cruelty back on them.
Okay. All right. Other comments? Frank?
He said that he should have a wicked man set over him, that is, to be set in authority over him, and that the accuser or Satan should stand at his right hand.
Okay. All right. Other comments on, well, we'll look at verse 8 specifically in a few minutes, but other comments specifically on 6 and 7. Susie.
This made me think of David's comment regarding Ahithophel when Absalom was turning against David. David realized that Ahithophel was, I can't think of the word, but he was leaving David and going with Absalom, and David prayed for Ahithophel's counsel to be, I can't remember what I was going to say. Anyway.
Okay, right. So then that's another possibility, is that this is referring to when Ahithophel betrayed David and served as a traitor to him, went with Absalom instead of serving David as he'd been for years. And maybe that's then symbolic or relates to Judas' betrayal of Jesus. Okay, so maybe that's the idea of the psalm. There's not enough, for me, there's not enough specifics stated in the psalm to know exactly what David's application might be. Verse 8, there's no question about that's application in the New Testament, but the other possibilities are certainly to be considered as well. What would it be like to be judged, know you were being judged by a wicked man? You see in the first part of verse 6, let a wicked man set a wicked man over him. Let an accuser stand at his right hand. What's the significance of an accuser standing at your right hand? Rick?
Well, if you're an evil man being judged by an evil man, he's not going to be good to you.
Yeah.
That's his way of life, is being evil.
When you're a good person, you want a fair judge. You want an honest judge because you know you're innocent. But when a wicked man judges you, you never know what's going to happen, but it's probably not going to be good. But the idea of the accuser at your right hand, we're going to see it later in that psalm as well, is the idea as you're standing before the judge, there's another man standing beside you making accusation against you, saying what you've done that you deserve to be punished for. So that's the picture, but in this case, it's a good man with an evil accuser and an evil judge. Okay? Other comments on 6 and 7? So the result is that rather than the innocent man, the others who are mistreating him, they're the ones who need to be found guilty. What does it mean when it says his prayer becomes sin? Last part of question number 2. In verse 7, that is, prayers become sin. Comments on that? Frank?
Thought that I had about it was that his prayer would be unrighteous because of his desires for an unrighteous judgment against the innocent.
Okay. So not all worship is accepted, is it? It's possible to try to worship God, and yet what you're doing is accounted as sin because your life is sinful in general, or you're not truly worshiping God. And so this wicked man making accusations and mistreating a good man has no right to pray, and his prayer is counted as sin by God. So we get to verse 8, and we have this, let his days be few, and let another take his office. So I ask you question number 3. Where is that quoted in the New Testament? Steve?
In Acts chapter 1, verse 20, Judas' betrayal disqualified him, and his position was vacant.
Okay. So in Acts chapter 1, verse 20, this is quoted. Is another take his office because Judas had betrayed Jesus and then committed suicide. Peter quotes this passage as to justify taking for the other apostles to choose another apostle to take Judas' place. Okay? So we know that has that application. Now, whether it had another application David's case, I don't know, but it definitely had it in Jesus' case because we have a passage quotes it. Other comments on verse 8? Okay. All right, so question number 4 then. What about, what other punishment in verses 9 through 12? There's further punishment, and what's that? Rick?
Loss of life, loss of children, loss of property, his debate for food, no mercy, by one way, his death. Well, this is what sort of threw me, that the first of the verses there is like he's already assigned death, since he has a loss of wife and she's to be a widow. But then later on, he's doing all these things that he loses his kids and he loses everything else, so he must still be alive to lose them.
Okay. All right, so his children be fatherless, his wife be a widow, his children vagabonds, and seeking the bread in desolate places. Creditor seizes all he has. Strangers plunder his labor. Other comments? All right. How would this fit the case of Judas? How would this fit Judas' case? Or would it? Well, if Judas committed suicide, what would happen to his wife and kids? His wife would be a widow and his kids would be fatherless, right? And they'd have no one to support them. So they would be without food, and creditors would seize their possessions. Now, again, we don't know that because we don't know the specifics, but it would certainly reasonably follow from the man who's committed suicide. Okay. Other comments on 9 through 12? Terry?
Question. The end of verse 12, nor any to be gracious to his fatherless children.
Okay.
I don't understand that thought even.
Okay. Question number 7, when we get to it, relates to that subject. We can discuss it now, it doesn't really matter. If the father sins and suffers these punishments, why should his kids suffer? Are the children guilty because the father was guilty? I think that's the question, right? No. Okay.
And I was asking was, why would David, the writer of this, ask for that to be part of the punishment for whoever had mistreated him? That's the way I took it. It was saying, let there be none to extend loving kindness to him, nor any to be gracious to his fatherless children. That seemed a strange request to me.
Okay. Comments? Susan?
I don't know that this answers Terry's question, but again, I was thinking when I read this, I thought of Korah, Dathan, and Abiram's family. They weren't guilty of their rebellion, but they suffered because of their rebellion. And I guess I didn't think about it as David being unkind to the children, but just being just.
Okay. Other comments? Anybody? Again, part of it I think might be we don't know the specifics of the situation, but there's other cases besides Korah, Dathan, and Abiram. They also continued. Achan, similar thing. The man committed the guilt, but his whole family was punished as a result. And yet we know there are scriptures that say that the children are not guilty of the sins of the father. Okay? Well, here's a possibility, and you can think about it and whether it answers the question or not. But it's possible that it wasn't just the father who was evil, but the whole family was guilty of evil. And that may be why Korah, Dathan, and Abiram's families were destroyed, because they were all evil. Not just the man, but the family stood behind him in what he was doing, and likewise with Achan. And the same thing here with whoever this is, Ahithophel, or if it's Judas, that the author, speaking for God by inspiration, knew that it wasn't just Judas who was guilty. Judas was a lot worse guy than just a betrayer. We know he was a thief even before that. So it's possible that his family was evil too. So that's a possible explanation. Now, whether or not that satisfies all questions, I don't know, but it's a possibility to consider. Other thoughts on why the family suffers here because the father is punished? Any other comments through verse 13? It's also true whether they deserve it or not, which doesn't really relate to Terry's question, but it's also true whether they deserve it or not, the family will suffer if they have an evil father. And if he's punished for his wrong, the family's going to suffer, whether it's deliberate or not, it's going to happen. Okay, anything else? Let's move on through question number 5. Other punishments in 13 through 16. We've covered some of it. 13 through 16, what other punishments are described? Frank?
He mentions that his prosperity would be cut off, his iniquity, the iniquity of his fathers be remembered, and his mother's sin not be blotted out, and that God cut off memory of his family because he showed no mercy but persecuted the poor.
Okay. Another comments on 13 through 16? Notice in verse, for what it's worth, notice in verse 14 that his mother's guilty of sin too. It isn't just the man himself. His fathers are guilty of iniquity. Okay. Other comments through 16? Okay, so he mistreated the guilty of the man back to him in verse 16. He mistreated the poor and the needy, even slaying the broken in heart. Now, obviously, that's not, that's somewhat of a general description. If it applies to Judas, Jesus was not poor in the sense of other typical poor people, but nevertheless, he was, as one who was poor and needy, being mistreated by someone like Judas. But again, maybe it's referring to something that David had in mind more particularly. Anything else through 16? Okay. 17 through 20, question 6. What does the enemy love? What would happen? The enemy loves what in 17 through 20? Rick?
I might be completely off here, but it says the Lord, they love cursing because it's very mean to their evil ways. Now, I don't believe that cursing means using foul language. I believe he's belligerent towards everybody and towards everything.
Okay. All right. Other comments on 17 through 20? Okay, he brings curses on other people. Yeah, I don't think it's profanity either as such. And in fact, in the Bible, oftentimes it isn't. But we would think of it typically as cursing, as profanity. But it's saying that you want harm to bring on other people and trying to bring it on them. But instead, the author, as David is saying, that it should come on him. He's the one who should suffer. Because he didn't delight in blessing, he should be clothed with cursing. It should become a part of him, like his garments around him, entering into his body like drinking water, oil to his bones. Okay? Other comments on this man's conduct in consequences 16 to 20. Susie.
You get the picture that this man isn't just an occasional sinner or does something bad occasionally, but he is consumed with wickedness and evil.
Yeah, and does that fit Judas? We know part of it fits him because it's quoted and referred to him. But again, Judas didn't do that one wrong thing. Betraying Jesus was not the only wrong thing he did. We knew he was regularly a thief, stealing the money that was being given to support the preaching and teaching of the gospel. And remember him criticizing Mary for the fragrant oil she put upon to honor Jesus, and he criticized that. Judas was not a nice guy. Again, whether or not all this is applied to him, I don't know, but he was not a good guy. Other comments through 20. Terry.
I don't know if I can explain this thought, but I have well enough for anybody to understand it. But the thought came to me as I was studying this, that this, what David is asking to come upon this person who has mistreated him so badly. If anybody is watching an evil person, they see these kinds of things happen in their life. Their children suffer, their family suffers, and it's maybe not that David is asking for these things to happen so much to the children and the family and the wife, but for people to notice the result of choosing this way of being such a man who loved cursing other people. It has a destructive reaction on everybody that's associated with him, even on down through his children. And it's like a warning, don't choose that way.
Okay, I think regardless of the other questions we may have asked, we can agree on that. An evil man brings evil consequences on his family. You don't just do evil and you're the only one who suffers for it. Doing wrong has consequences to other people. And many of us know situations where that's true. Where someone, it's not just the man, of course, it can be the mother too. In fact, it talked about the sins of this man's mother. It brings consequences on other people. Whenever we do wrong, those around us suffer too. Anything else through 20? All right, let's go ahead and read the rest of the Psalm 21 through the end of the Psalm. We'd like to read verses 21 through 31 for us, please. I'd like to read 21 through 31. Frank, please.
But you, O God, the Lord, deal with me for your name's sake, because your mercy is good, deliver me. For I am poor and needy, and my heart is wounded within me. I am gone like a shadow when it lengthens. I am shaken off like a locust. My knees are weak through fasting, and my flesh is feeble from lack of fatness. I also have become a reproach to them. When they look at me, they shake their heads. Help me, O Lord my God. O save me according to your mercy, that they may know that this is your hand, that you, Lord, have done it. Let them curse, but you bless. When they arise, let them be ashamed. But let your servant rejoice. Let my accusers be clothed with shame, and let them cover themselves with their own disgrace as with a mantle. I will greatly praise the Lord with my mouth. Yes, I will praise him among the multitude, for he shall stand at the right hand of the poor to save him from those who condemn him.
Okay. So question number 8 now. What treatment does the author want for himself from the Lord? How does he describe his suffering, his needs? How does he describe what he wants from the Lord? Up to now, he's been talking about this wicked man who's mistreated him and the punishment he should receive. But what does he want the Lord to do for himself in specifically 21 to 24? Susie?
He asks him to deal kindly with him and to rescue him for God's name's sake, because he trusts in his mercy that is good. He's poor or afflicted or suffering and needy. His heart is wounded, and he's fading, and due to his suffering, but he asks for God's kindness and mercy.
Okay, so in contrast to the treatment of the evil man and his deserving punishment, David, speaking for the innocent man here, wants God to deal with him well. Other comments? Frank?
In verse 23, he said, I'm gone like a shadow when it lengthens. In the evening, we see the shadows as the sun's going down, and the shadows lengthen, and then when the sun is down and dusk arrives, then the shadows disappear because of the darkness. And he said, I am shaken off like a locust. And when we're out and a locust by chance lands on us, it startles us and we just shake it off suddenly. So he's saying that he's cast off like a locust.
Okay, and the shadow lengthening is like his life is fading. I took it like the day is fading. His life is fading. That's how he feels. His heart is wounded, he says, and so on. But he turns to God. Okay, we didn't talk about this specifically, but the last part of question 7, I asked, is he seeking to take personal vengeance on those who wrong him, or is he leaving the vengeance to God in this all? And I think that's an interesting point, too. Even though he's wishing for justice to be done to the one who harms him, he doesn't want to take it in his own hands. He's not seeking to do it himself. He's asking God for protection and for justice. Okay? Other comments? Susie?
Well, and by doing that, David wants them to know that his justice shows that God is in control and that David is vindicated.
Okay, yes, so not only that he wants to be protected by God, he wants people to know that. He wants people to know that God is just and that he himself has received vindication. Okay, moving on, 25 to 27, question 9. Again, how do people treat him, and what's he asking the Lord to do in 25 to 27? How do people treat him, and how does he want the Lord to respond in 25 to 27?
Well, in 25, it says he's become a reproach to them. So that's something that's distasteful to them. Then in 26, he says, help me, O Lord. Oh my God. And in 27, that they may know that this is your hand.
So when he suffers at the hands of the wicked person, sometimes other people think he deserves it. Sometimes people think he's done something wrong. And look at the application to Jesus, and even to David when he was fleeing from Ahithophel and Absalom. People thought they were in the wrong. But if justice is done, then it becomes obvious who really was in the wrong here. That they were really innocent, being mistreated by evil men. So he turns to the Lord, not to trust in himself, but he turns to the Lord for mercy. And again, as Susie said, verse 27, that they may know that this is in your hand, that you, Lord, have done it. Okay? Other comments to 27? Okay, and then question 10, 28, verse 28 and 29. How did the enemies contrast to the Lord and to the author in 28 and 29? The Lord is on one side to treat him one way in contrast to how others have been treating him. What's the contrast in 28 and 29? Steve?
The enemies curse, but the Lord blesses.
Okay.
The enemies act, but the author trusts in God. Enemies will be ashamed, but the author will rejoice.
Okay, very good. Let them curse, but you bless. When they arise, let them be ashamed, but let your servant rejoice. Let my accusers be clothed with shame, and let them cover themselves with their own disgrace, as with a mantle. Okay? So in the end, he's hoping that God will bring justice. That it will be seen who really was, out of all this false accusation and mistreatment, who was really right and who was really wrong. And that's what we want, isn't it? If we serve the Lord faithfully, what we want is, we just want what is right to be done. We want God to take care of it and to show that we haven't been guilty of the things that people have said about us. But those who are evil, they're the ones who deserve to be ashamed. Other comments to 29. Susie.
Well, earlier the wicked are described as being clothed in, they wear cursings like a robe, like a garment. It consumes them. But now they're going to be totally clothed with shame, disgrace, and humiliation.
Okay, very good. Yeah, good contrast, isn't it? And then the last question, the last two verses, 30 and 31, what's the final outcome? What's the end result in 30 and 31? Terry.
He praises God with his mouth. He's thankful and speaks that thankfulness. And God stands at the right hand of the needy to save from false judgment.
Okay.
So look at this. If you look at this psalm, it has some specific applications, but it also has a very general thought in it that when we are mistreated or misjudged or done evil, man is not going to solve that problem for us. There's only one person to seek, and that's God, and that's who is being sought all through this. And he is the one who will save, and his final judgment will justify the righteous.
Sooner or later, justice will be done. We may wish it would be sooner, but eventually it will be done. Other comments on 30 and 31? Okay, like Susie's comment about the difference in the garments. Cursing was the garment in the earlier part, and then at the end, shame was the garment of the evil man. In a similar contrast, verse 31, God is going to stand at the right hand of the one who's been mistreated to save him from those who condemn him. Remember earlier, there would be one stand at the right hand of the one who did wrong, in verse 6, I believe it was, to accuse him. Now God stands at the right hand of the one who does right to, no, it wasn't verse 6, was it? Anyway, it says it, when to stand at the right hand of the one who did wrong, to justify him, to defend him. Okay. Other comments on this psalm? Anything else? Okay, so the result is God deserves to be praised. I will greatly praise him, among the multitude, verse 30. Okay. Thank you very much. We'll get into Psalm 110 then next time. Thank you.